Welcome back to part three of the Chronophiles with Parker X, Brett Galvin, Brett Wood, and myself. And we're just going to kind of keep beating this subject up a little bit. We were just trying to figure out where we go with it from here. And talking about what sort of demand comes back and how you can draw people into your facility and market to them, whether it's and what kind of people do you want coming back into your facility? Are you preferring early birds? Do you want people that show up at a certain time? What are you going to do to keep your business alive and working and actually make that asset continue to work for you?
Do you make every second space available initially and provide some sort of social distance comfort parking? uh, Odds and even. So parking is always a means to an end. So have a look at who's parking in your facility and what are the attractors to your facility, and make sure you understand what the dynamics are around the area where people are coming to. So the big box store is still closed, the restaurants are closed. You really have to reevaluate the reason to open, or the pricing structure you have associated to your car park. I'm imagining.
Yeah, I'm thinking about, like, if I have to go park and I have to go somewhere, I'm gonna go to work for the day. Like, if someone could wrap more around that trip, so maybe my dry cleaning's in my car, that's being picked up and dropped off while I'm at work, or it's dropped off the next day. Maybe my food that I want to take home with me for dinner is, delivered at just the perfect time and sitting in the front seat when I leave out of my car. I've done some shopping on Amazon and my packages are in my trunk. I mean, like those sort of, you talk about being a smart hub, but maybe it's more about wrapping some smart services around the trip. And if a
What
facility was capable of delivering all that, get my car washed and my oil change while I'm there too. I don't know. These are just ideas, but
There's
well,
always an interesting use case around what's the point of having parking guidance cameras over your bay. Maybe the facility where you're tracking people dropping off services to your car, or your car space, or the car space next to your car, in the instance of having every second space utilized. Maybe
yeah.
there's a use case there for those camera based parking guidance systems to validate those transactions.
You think about
Well,
it, with most cars today, you could just plug in a device into an OBD2 port on the car, which is the diagnostic port under the dash. That was its own cellular device. And through an app, you could unlock the trunk or a portion of the car so that someone could retrieve something from your vehicle. So, like a delivery service basically could gain access to your vehicle to pick up and drop things off. There's a car sharing app called GetAround, which is clearly going to have trouble right now and during this, that where I can do that with an app now. I can show up at a car that's randomly parked on the street somewhere and rent it for 2 hours, and the car unlocks and everything through the app, and it's all done through that OBD2 module. So I mean, there's ways to do this pretty easily. They're already happening today.
yeah, I think that, I mean, it's interesting because providing some level of suite of services, the concepts of oil change and car washes, those have been around in the parking facility, industry for a while, but it would be a game changer if we could find a way to combine, goods delivery with somebody's transaction, because I think, and this gets away from kind of the revenue side of it, but just this, my opinion is, I think we've all spent more time over the past 5 weeks with our families, with ourselves, outdoors. It's going to be a tough transition to go back to, you know 14-hour days of working, grocery shopping, all those types of things. We're going to want to combine some of those things so that we can still continue some of this normalcy that we've created, and doing that by creating or combining all of the goods delivery and the errands into one place is pretty interesting. And what I think is from the manager side of it, if we can monetize that, like it becomes a partnership between Amazon, Instacart, the dry cleaner, whatever, to be the preferred provider for XYZ parking facility, there's an opportunity for both sides to gain revenue from that. And that revenue, that monetization from the parking management side, could serve to offset some of what we're going to lose from people that just may not come back into the city or to the office or to the event or whatever it may be.
You know, you hit on one very important. You hit a lot of important things there, but one thing that really struck me was what I've gotten back through all of this is a whole lot of time. Time to do other things, time to spend more time with the family, and still accomplishing, the same level of work, maybe not, generating some of the same revenue. But at the same time, I do kind of miss some of the, you were a traveler like I am.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't mind taking a trip right now.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been a while. It's like, all right, you kind of getting itchy a little bit. I mean, maybe it doesn't need to be quite at the frequency it was, but, I mean, I don't know. I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth on that, but
Well,
I
you're
agree
right,
with
though. The time part of it. I mean, we've gained so much time that we're able to spend on things that we haven't been able to before. That if we can continue to capture that by providing a higher level of customer service, that's a natural sell for parking operators and managers around the country.
I think we just came up with a few new businesses between these episodes. So one,
We might
a
have.
structural engineering company needs to focus on repurposing existing structures into something more usable, and how they can deal with all that. I think that would be a good side business. Wow, yeah, that's
So
fun.
how do you make money? How do you make a clip on if we're embedding pickup services and we're making that part of our parking experience, even if it's a temporary parking experience like a 15-minute on-street pickup sort of experience, how do we monetize that? Those generally have been free of charge, if you imagine, traditionally.
Well,
I think
from
a
the curb,
convenience charge or something would be worthwhile. I mean, the parking facility's got to get something out of the picture, and
Sure.
if you're also passing a credential to the person making the delivery that allows them to come and go seamlessly, I think that has a lot of value.
yeah. I mean, I've been doing Instacart here for the past couple of weeks to get groceries delivered, and there's a service fee, there's a delivery fee, there's all of these things baked in that you could add in a convenience fee for the facility. You also asked about the curbside though, like the side where pulling up to do a curbside loading, or maybe it's DoorDash is picking up curbside from a restaurant. We've already started having that conversation in the industry about how to monetize that even before this happened, because we were beginning to give up real estate to commercial loading and goods movement and people movement that wasn't parking related. And so municipal parking managers have already started talking about how do we monetize that. And the monetizing it part is fairly easy. You give them an app, you use location-based information from their car, whatever. The enforcement side of it's been the tricky piece, because it's such a quick transaction that you can't do it in the traditional method with a parking enforcement officer. So you have to automate that, and maybe seeing our curbs transition more quickly to goods movement may facilitate that legislative process to automate the enforcement, so that we can actually do that. Because there's a substantial amount of revenue that can be generated at the curb by non-traditional curb transactions.
Mm. I was thinking on the side there about the comment you made about time, Lester, and potentially if your demand for transients is decreasing, your contractors and your staff, maybe where you've traditionally put them in far away places, maybe you're moving them closer to the facility to provide a shorter distance of transit just for their walk into the facility. That's right sizing the staff nesting approach. I wanted to speculate a little. So this comes off in particular states. There'll be a day, right, where it's everyone. You can go and do whatever you want. You can go and park. You can go back to work. What do you do as a facility in the days leading up to that big bang? Are you expecting everyone to be out for?
I imagine there's going to be the event side. I mean, that's one. Do you have a giant event, or is that going to be like taboo to have some huge event?
Oh, it's going to be the end of World War II. It's going to be everyone's driving. Everyone's driving. Everyone's having massive. Yeah, I would imagine. I don't know. Maybe it is a little less squeaky than that. Maybe it's essential services and you bring certain parts of the community back online at different
do say
times,
that- they
and
do
it
say-
becomes manageable.
They do say this is going to be the second baby boom.
This is very true. Very true.
Well, so I'll give you an example now. Like, I mean, we talked about in the previous episode about, cleanliness of parking facilities and things like that. But, Gary Means in Lexington, Kentucky, they've seen 90% drop in demand and revenue. But what they decided to do during at least this portion of the shutdown is we're going to clean all of our parking facilities. We're going to, update whatever we need to do from a technology perspective. We're going to make everything completely spick and span and ready for day one. So when everybody comes back, they've got their best foot forward. And I think as we figure out what 100% open for business looks like, that's what parking programs and operators should be thinking about: is what is that ramp up for cleanliness, best foot forward. If they do something from the service, like we talked about earlier in the episode, how do we get that implemented? There's going to be a lot of work to get these things ready to go and get policies passed so that they can continue to absorb this changed behavior.
You think valet becomes less popular?
I do, yeah. I think it's going to be tough. Valet typically being around events or restaurants, we just don't know how the
Hotels.
restaurant and hotels, yeah. And it gives, at least in the short term, I mean, we don't want people coming in our house, much less getting in my car. So, right, yeah.
It's very hard to predict how everything's going to be different.
Yeah.
But there's no doubt that things will not have the same shape and color that they did before on some level. And some things may be completely the same, but it certainly isn't going to be everything.
There's some interesting decisions on how you value parking assets. Part of what we do is look at the long-term value of those assets and how quickly they sort of turn back to normal will have a direct impact on whether you reinvest or not, whether you decide to completely reorientate your parking situation and invest that money. We'll have to start looking at exactly when you would make those investment decisions. And this is key to you, Lester. What are you hearing in terms of people looking at changing the way they're investing in their parking assets? So we've looked at, you and I think we're going to do a little discussion on software as a service and hardware as a service. If the money's potentially not there, you want some way to moderate the risk and make it a shared risk in these uncertain times.
Yeah, I mean, I've certainly seen that, people are now looking more towards that sort of offering. That seems to have all of a sudden, a lot of deals that were all, CapEx purchases are transitioning over to these service type offerings. I mean, that's something we were fortunately prepared for and had something in the tank to offer, but where it was more, a small percentage of the deals were these kind of, hardware as a service or infrastructure as a service deals, parking as a service, whatever you want to call it. Now, and we're 90% were CapEx. It just flipped, at least through this period here.
I think that continues. I think that'll normalize. It's an interesting way, particularly if you don't quite know the level of demand that you'll get back to. You'll want to moderate and have the option to move that infrastructure on.
Yeah, even though it costs more money, obviously, to do it that way. In the long run, over the same period of time, you'll still spend more money doing it that way. But I think, just trying to, like you said, moderate that risk in some way is all of a sudden became very popular.
Yeah, no doubt.
New construction seems to have not slowed down at all. I don't know if new projects are going, but everything that was under construction or moving along at one point is still seems to have its foot on the pedal. According to all the states that we're working in, construction was completely left alone. It was left on the list of essential functions.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the question is the next round of construction, right? Like 6 months out, does that get delayed because of funding or project planning or whatever it may be?
Yeah, look, I'm more worried for me economically. I'm more worried about July, August, September. than I am about, April, May, June.
Yeah.
Like, we're in good shape, right? There's business that's been secured and has been done, and we work with a long lead time stuff here. So a lot of deals are, average cycle is like close to a year. From the time you hear about a project to the time you're paid your final check on a project, a lot of times, sometimes longer on, airports and other large deals like that. But so we're a cruise ship at the moment. The United States economy is, and the engines got cut off, and it's coasting, and it's going to take a long time to understand how much of a slowdown there will be. Because even if it all bounced back tomorrow, you're going to have a period of time where it's going to continue to decline. It's almost like they're talking about the curve, right? It's going to peak and then it's going to come back down. Well, the same thing's going to happen on the other end economically. It's going to continue to go down for a while before it makes that turn to go back up. And it'll be after they return us all to work, I think.
Yeah.
Interesting discussion for sure. And we'll keep following it. In terms of, as soon as we can get our COVID-19 passport, that we've gone through it and we have some sort of immunity, then we'll be back at work. That might be an interesting aspect to this, as well as who you let on your facility from time to time. Is there a legal obligation around introducing someone who hasn't been tested, hasn't been screened, doesn't have the disease? Whether they come back.
When do they release flights?
Yeah.
Sure.
When do flights come back? I mean,
That's tricky.
Yeah. Trade shows, right? When do the trade shows come back? Those are very people-centric events, but we'll see.
They are.
Well, cool. I think that's it. I think we've beat the topic up enough.
Yeah.
I'll have to give it a few more weeks and get into it some more.
Thanks for letting me ramble about
Thank you for listening to the Parker X podcast. We sincerely appreciate it and hope you are enjoying our content. Please remember to rate, review, comment, subscribe, and share. And follow us on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. The following has been a production of Parker X.